friends. This is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for this devotional. We are in the last chapter of the book of Proverbs. Excited about this right here. Proverbs 31. I'm going to read verse 23 for you today. It says, "Her husband is known in the gates where people gather, when he sits among the elders of the land." Now, most of this chapter is written to a young man about finding an ideal wife. Keep in mind, most of the Proverbs are written from a father's perspective, and this chapter is no different. He's just talking to his son. It feels like we get this little inside look at what a father, who is also a king, told his son about finding the perfect woman. And the main text of chapter 31 is verse 23, which I just read. And I know this because the Hebrew text in chapter 31 forms a chiasm. Verse 23 is right at the apex of this chiasm, and it focuses in on the son or the future husband. This verse makes the driving point. The father wants his son to find a wife who will support his notoriety and leadership. And so the verses that surround this text in chapter 31 point to this one end. And I love this chapter because the father does four things really well. Number one, he talks with his son about the future. He just sits down with him and talks with the son about how a wife will affect him as a man and a leader. Now, some might consider this a little chauvinistic, or maybe we might say a show of male superiority, but it's not. It's not at all. It's actually just a loving conversation, because finding a wife is a life-altering decision, and it's one that a father should have with a son. Number two, this father emphasizes the importance of a woman's character. He literally lists a dozen characteristics or more to seek in a wife. Things like virtue and faithfulness and reverence and strength and endurance and her charity. Any combination of these characteristics would be riveting to find in any woman. Third, he doesn't ignore the physical aspects. Sometimes I think we want to dismiss physical attraction because we think it's vain, but it shouldn't be ignored. And this father sees no shame in talking with his son about how a woman cares for herself, holds herself, and even prepares herself for him. And fourth, he communicates the seen and unseen effects of a good wife. This father knows that his future wife will have an effect on him for the rest of his life. And in the end, he needs to be a husband that his wife will respect both in private and in public, because, well, he is a man and a husband and a father and a leader worth honoring. Gentlemen, we need to have these conversations with our sons. I know they're not easy at times, and we may not always say the right things, but we should do our best to have the conversation. And you need to learn to do this by starting just small. Just have small conversations. Maybe today have a short 2 to 3 sentence conversation with your son about something that meets him on his level, regardless of how old he is. You can practice on a 2-year-old. He'll listen to you. And by the way, if you don't have a son yet, or you're not even thinking about getting married, or you don't have a father around, maybe read Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. It's good reading. And I think it determines a pretty good target. It's a P31 wife. Fellas, I hope you enjoy this devotional. If you have, do me a favor, share it with someone you know today. Maybe someone who doesn't have a father in their life, or maybe your own son. And I pray it's going to bless you. And with that, I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.